I think my 22 male, ex, 19 female, was actually a prostitute who played me. Worked with this guy all summer last year, and towards the end of the summer I felt very close with him. When he asked me why I don't have a girlfriend or joked what my favorite sex positions were, I broke it to him that I was still a 22 male virgin. He was in his mid-40s. I told him I was a bit frustrated and embarrassed over it but wanted to wait until the time was right, and I think he felt bad for me. After the summer the job ended. At the end of the season work party he brought his 19 female daughter around and tried to get her to talk to me. She immediately friended me on Facebook and was trying to get my attention, but frankly I wasn't into her much and didn't understand why she was so into me when she didn't even know me. She dressed in ripped jeans and a cheap hoodie and wore too much makeup. A couple weeks later her dad asked me to fix her laptop, so I did. She came over with her sister and talked about how, back in school, all the guys wanted to hook up with me, like she was bragging, even though I didn't find her sexually appealing. I found she posted her snap on her Facebook, so I figured I'd add her cuz I was bored, and immediately she sent me a snap of her in a bra wearing makeup. She looked really attractive in that photo, so I asked her if she wanted to hang out at all and she said sure. I picked her up a few days later and took her out, but she demanded I bring her older sister along, so I figured why not. It wasn't really a date I guess, but I took them to some viewpoint and then to dinner. She hardly said a word and was on her phone the whole time while her sis was doing the talking, which rubbed me the wrong way. The sister was married, but I figured we could get along as friends. A week later I asked her if she wanted to go out again, just her. But she said she wasn't feeling good, so I waited and asked again a couple days later and she said sure. I asked if she wanted to go see a movie, but she demanded instead I come over her place to Netflix and chill, and she didn't want to go out. At this point I was really attracted to her, so I compromised and invited her to my place instead. I picked her up and she was wearing cheap clothes and 10 pounds of makeup, and she immediately started talking about how, my sister and dad told me not to fuck you, but I told them I'd do what I want. About an hour into watching the show she started taking off her clothes and told me to sit next to her, come closer, I don't bite. She then started rubbing her feet against mine and asked if she could stay over. I was uncomfortable and wanted to take things slow, but I said sure. I said I'd sleep on the couch, but she said she'd be cold in bed alone if I did that, and I was too drunk to refuse at this point. I didn't end up fucking her but messed around instead, and the whole time she was telling me to stick my dick inside her and get it over with. Somehow she knew I was a virgin even though I never told her. I brought her home the next day and her dad said congratulations to me, WTF. And that's when she sent me these messages which rubbed me the wrong way. She seemed too obsessed with talking about sex and something seemed off. She wouldn't talk about anything else. That night I came over, I told her I was gonna take it slow and wanted to get to know her a bit more, but didn't mind just making out for now. Within 10 minutes she yanked my hand into her panties and started kissing me. I left 20 minutes later and she apologized. A few days later she told me she had a breakdown and said she needed dick bad because she hadn't had dick for 4 months, and if I wanted this relationship to work I had to fuck her. At this point I told her I was ready and went over and got it over with. A few weeks go by and everything is good, but she still only talks about sex and wants phone sex when I'm not there. When I'm there she's asking me a million questions about my kinks and wants to try all these positions like she has some checklist she's checking off. Now let's do this now that. It all felt pretty mechanical to me and there was no love despite her telling me she loved me 1 week in. She even wanted sex on her period and got me sick when she stuck her tongue down my throat. Oh, I forgot to tell you I have a cold. She tried hard to get me to fuck her while I was coughing up a storm. The relationship only lasted a few weeks before I started asking her to do other things like, let's go for a walk, or the aquarium, or out to eat. After I started asking these questions she broke up with me and told me she wants to be single and that, I'm not good for you anyway. To me the breakup happened so suddenly and I was shocked and confused. I was just starting to get attached, but now I am thinking she might have been a hooker all along. The whole time we dated she told me she was unemployed, and I caught her flirting with other guys when she thought I wasn't looking at her phone. Towards the end, whenever I bought her anything at all, a few gifts, she and her dad both got pissed at me while I sat there confused. Her dad insisted on knowing how much I paid. If it really is the case, then all I can feel is betrayed. While I told him I really wanted to lose my virginity, I made it clear I wanted a relationship and I'm not a hookup kinda guy. The last thing she said to me was that she wanted me to go fuck other girls. TLR My older coworker may have hired his 19 female daughter to take my virginity and pretend to be my girlfriend for a few weeks before dumping me because I'm too good for her, either that or I'm overthinking things. Yeah, I'm not sure what kind of sex worker wouldn't want to get paid. It sounds more like she's probably a sex addict who just wants it whenever she can get it, and most girls don't get told no, so she pushed too hard for it. And it's weird for a 40-year-old to be talking to a early 20s dude about his sex life at work. IDK exactly what his deal is, but I get a real bad vibe from that guy. And it seems like they're both talking to each other about your sex life, which is also weird. Anyway, I'd just try to move on from the whole situation. I know that might be hard if you work with her dad, but I'd probably try to get into a new job or something too so you can make a clean break from both of them. My 25 male girlfriend, 24 female, wants me to send monthly payments to her family. Dr. I just started making good money. My girlfriend wants me to start sending money, $1,000 or more, to her family every month. I refused and she's irate with me, calling me selfish, etc. Seeking advice. Hey guys, need some advice here. My girlfriend and I have been together for about 2 years now. We live together and share some finances, split everything 50-50, but I believe she's trying to take things a bit too far by asking me to give money to her family. For more context, we live in the US, she is second-generation Mexican. Meaning, her parents are from Mexico but she was born in US. My girlfriend is an outlier in her family, whereas she is one of her relatives to get a college degree. She is making decent money now, $70,000, and also moved across the country from her family after graduating. She leads a stable and drama-free life, which is why I love her. She is frugal with her money and is generally low maintenance. Her sister, on the other hand, is a mess. She is a single mother of 2, moved to Florida from Michigan on a whim with no money, skills or degree to follow her baby daddy. BD left her and the kids. She is now jobless and moved in with relatives who are also struggling. Blames everyone for her shit except herself. Her mother is not doing any better. After a nasty divorce where she was cheated on and abused throughout the marriage, she decided to represent herself in court despite all advice and lost just about everything to her name. She is also just notoriously bad with her money. She will spend the last $800 to her name on a fancy table she doesn't need, then freak out and ask for money to cover rent. This is just a glimpse into the mess of her family, not even including all the issues and drama caused by her extended family. There are many of them. Then, there's me. I come from a pretty poor background and have worked myself silly to get into a good financial position. I finally started making a decent wage in the past 2 months, $150,000, for the first time in my life. I have things I could only dream of, like good healthcare and a savings account. Recently, my girlfriend approached me and asked if I could start helping her send money to her family since I'm making good money now. I was a little taken back, and just asked what she thought. She's asking me to contribute nearly $1,000 each month to send to her mom and sister. I said absolutely not. I think it's absolutely ridiculous to just be sending monthly payments to relatives, much less relatives that aren't even mine. She's acting like I'm being outrageous by refusing, saying she couldn't believe I'm so selfish. She will absolutely not let it go, and her demeanor towards me has shifted since I shut her down. I feel like I'm going insane. If a relative was in a life or death situation and needed some funds, sure, I could spare some change. But not $1,000 a month. Or any monthly payment for that matter. I tried to compromise and said I would buy some school supplies or some clothes for her sister's kids. Who I feel are an innocent party here and shouldn't suffer from their mom's stupid decisions. She refused, saying it's not enough. Either way, I really don't want my hard-earned money in the hands of her relatives who are notoriously bad with it. I understand that family is important in Latin American culture. Has anyone in a similar situation dealt with something like this? How can we move past this? Dude. All I am going to say is do not get married to her unless you are comfortable sending a lot more to her family. Once married, she is just going to take your money to send to her family. This very well could, and probably should be a deal breaker for you. She's acting like I'm being outrageous by refusing, saying she couldn't believe I'm so selfish. She's only saying this to get you to back down and fulfill an outrageous request? Most people don't even save $1,000 per month. You are not married. Of course you don't do this. We can't move past this. That's a tepid question. What you can do is hold your boundary and let her deal. Now you know she's a gold digger, different cultures notwithstanding. Again, you are not married. She makes $70K. Why can't she send to her own family? Save your money for the future and don't throw it down the drain to help feckless relatives who aren't even yours by marriage. I, 30F. Think my partner, 33M, is psychologically abusive. We've been together for 4 years and over the span of 2 years I've noticed his behavior change. He was very warm, kind, generous, and generally a lovely person to be around. However, over the past 2 years I've noticed that things have been slowly changing. He's become quite critical and disrespectful of me. For example, he compares me to my friends and references how they're in senior and technical jobs, whereas I'm in a more administrative position. He'll comment about how intelligent they are and how I'm sort of the odd one out. I hear comments from him on a daily basis that are like small jabs at my intellect, looks, attention span, interests, etc. I've told him to stop making these comments, but he's like, I'm just joking, or will forget that I told him to stop. When we're fighting, the remarks are often much more intense and crueler. For example, he said that he's had to change his standards for a partner to accommodate me, that I'm not right for him now, but after I continue to work on my faults, that I'll be perfect for him in like 5–10 years, and how I have to earn his love. Moreover, when we do fight, it's hard to get to a resolution. We end up talking for hours in circles and he ends up bringing in other shortfalls I have that are many times unrelated to the topic we are fighting about. If I defend myself, he'll often say I'm playing the victim and can't see the situation clearly. He's also incredibly logical and very good at arguing, so I find myself confused and many times utterly lost in the conversation. So I end up contradicting myself or feeling very puzzled and don't know how to respond. Because I'm so exhausted and confused, I end up going quiet and just listen to him. I typically respond with, "Yes, I agree," or, "You're right," because I am just so tired. In these moments, he'll be like, "Well, why don't you speak up?" or, "Do you really agree with me or are you just saying yes?" And I usually just respond in the affirmative, because if I disagree, that doesn't help the fight and ends up extending everything because he wants to talk about how I could possibly feel different to him. When the fights get really bad, I usually want to just go and take some time away because I feel so overwhelmed. His response to this is usually that I give up, that I'm always taking the easy route in life, don't have the fight in me and am not resilient. I just feel like I'm always on the receiving end of criticism which revolves around me having to change. I do have a tendency to forget and be a little spacey, which has gotten worse over time. It's interesting because I'm not this way with others and I wonder if I'm becoming this way because I get lectured so often. I just never thought I was this way before, and now I just feel like I should have a work in progress sign around my neck. I guess this gets back to me asking whether this is a psychologically abusive situation or if I'm just being too sensitive. Any help is appreciated. He's 1000% abusive and has no empathy for you. You need to leave him, this isn't something that will change. Please read, Why Does He Do That? By Lundy Bancroft. I am sorry, but the real question is for you. At what point in this relationship have you started to think it's acceptable for him to say you're not good enough for him, but maybe eventually? When did you lose all sense of self-esteem? Run. Just run. Dump him. Block him and rely on your friends for comfort. Seek a therapist too, because your hopefully soon-to-be ex has probably left a lot of damage. My 22F boyfriend, 24M, asphyxiated me, but swears he loves me. I, 22 female, love my ex-boyfriend, 24 male. He was my whole world, my knight. He's been through hell, so I try to understand him and love him irregardless of his struggles. The first year off our relationship was pure bliss and I just felt truly loved. But that all changed the second year when we would get into fights and he'd get so angry till he would hit the walls or himself, and then eventually choke me. Afterwards he'd apologize severely and I'd take him back because I thought I understand him and that he didn't mean to hurt me because he loves me. I just made him angry. Afterwards things would somewhat go back to normal, he'd be all sweet and loving, and give me many kisses on my face. And I felt loved. But this time I little scared. Moving on, when we would have good times, they were really good. But when we would fight, things just went south. The choking became more, and the time while he is doing it gradually become longer. But I know I can be a nagging bitch sometimes, always asking for him to be better, so I understand how this could get to him. But this time round, I had to just leave. We got into another heated fight, and I was ignoring and blocking him away as I always do when I get really upset, which upsets him. and he just literally snapped, hit the walls, hit himself I think, then put his hands on my neck and choked me so tight, and this time he wasn't letting go. I had to scratch him and cry. And he snapped out of it and let me go. And I think I got asphyxiated. 'Cause I saw black for a few seconds and felt really light. I couldn't even hear what was coming from his mouth. When I came back, he was apologizing and crying, and I was trembling. 2 victims I guess. I told him he wants to kill me. He tried to drag me to the kitchen saying yes let me kill you. Then he laughs and says, I'm kidding. And I just couldn't believe my eyes or ears or anything. I left him. And he made me feel like I gave up on him and he kept saying he's a fuck-up and doesn't deserve anything. It made me feel horrible. So, am I the asshole? 2 victims I guess. No. Not at all. Not for a second. He is an abuser, not a victim. He's eventually going to murder someone. He's dangerous. He almost murdered you. Get away and make sure he can never find you again. Keep pepper spray on you and inform someone about your whereabouts at all times. I would strongly urge you to report him and get a restraining order. You are not safe. If you let him have access to you in any way, you will die. I'm not exaggerating or trying to scare you. This isn't guesswork, this is fact. Please take proper steps to safeguard yourself.